I am live. Hey, everybody. Mark David Smith here. Hey, how y'all doing? If you might remember, this show used to be on Wednesday mornings in our morning discussion lineup, and they took me off to put some Constitution show on in my place. I don't know whose decision that was, but what a decision. I mean, actually the show's really good and it's probably a lot better than this one was when it was on in the morning. But the powers that be can do whatever they want to on the Lamb Network, so that's fine with me. But I'm glad that they renewed the show for another season here on the Lamb Network, the Compass of kraM. And I like doing this show. I like discussions with people and different people. And tonight we're going to play with just a couple of us having our discussions. And then as the weeks roll on, I have been promised by a multitude of friends and family that they will be showing up to share the show with me and give their opinions on the different subjects. We have 3 different subjects tonight, and most every show we're going to try to do 3 different subjects. We're always going to try to cover the CV, the China virus, because that is the big topic of the world these days. And also we're going to do a biblical topic, a little twist on something that most everybody is already familiar with. But if you were allowed up here, you would see my twists on most popular topics. And tonight I've got my twist on that I love to discuss. And then we'll have another topic after that that had to do with quarantine, the abortion clinics being open and being decided that they were essential businesses. So we're going to discuss that too tonight. And when I say we, I mean, a couple of my favorite people are going to be on with me, but they'll have to join me after this.
I like to teach the world to sing. Sing with me.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. That is this show. We thought it ended, but it will never end. It's going to keep on going because, hey, I'll put it on whenever I want to. Hey, looky here. It's Milena Weinberg. Hi, Milena. How are you?
Hello, Mark. I'm doing really well. And as you were saying, the show never ends, I was just remembering my son and I were just singing the song that never ends. So some things never end.
Well, my tag here says kraM because I am kraM, but yours says Daryl and Milena Weinberg. So, I trying to see around the corners to see if I can see maybe he's over to the side or something, but I'm going to assume he's going to show up here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's fine. Yeah. It's fine if he doesn't show up. You and I will do the show perfectly fine.
We always say 2 or 1.
The more, the better. Well, I have actually talked to several people about joining with us for the show, and it's a little bit short notice and getting started here. There's a lot of people that have said yes, they are. Matter of fact, everybody said yes, they do want to be on the show, but I think they're waiting to see if we crash tonight. If we do a horrible show and we crash and the network cancels the show after our premiere here, our pilot show, then I think what it is I think everybody's saying, oh man, it's a good thing I wasn't on that show, boy. Now I can, not have to worry about it. But hey, I'm going to name names if that happens. But hey, Milena, she's fine. If the show crashes, she still has her respect, her honor. She's not going to worry about, whether or not people are going to say, oh, Milena was on that pilot show of Compass of kraM in the evenings and that thing crashed. She's not worried about that. Are you, Milena?
No, not at all. And I have a special guest. There he is, just as you introducing me. So this is Daryl, so the part of the Daryl and Milena name here.
The Daryl and Milena Weinberg show. All right, everybody, I got them started, so I'm going to let them have it, and we'll see y'all later. I'm sure you guys got a lot to talk about on your new show, and so, thanks for doing this, and we'll see y'all later.
Yeah, bye.
Just joking.
You wouldn't be the first one that's ever done that to me before. So,
well, I've been trying to get you guys to do a show and you wouldn't do it. So, sometimes you just have to. No, that's not true at all. But I do want everybody to know that Daryl and Milena are two of my favorite people on the planet. I'm not real sure which one I like more than the other. But it just kind of depends on, I think it depends on how much I agree with whatever either one of you says. And then, then I'll make my decision of, by the end of the show, I'll let you know which one I like better. So, haven't we had this discussion before?
Many times, yes.
Many times. Well, you missed, Daryl, you missed my intro, which had a couple of songs which I think you'd probably like. I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing is in my intro. And also, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends.
Oh, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Oh. Breaking up the artillery, are we?
One of my favorite things for both of you guys is how you use old classic rock songs in your teachings. I mean, Milena even started her keeping focus in distracting times.
An Aerosmith.
I know it, and I just love it so much because it fits, it works,
I never do that, and all of a sudden I was going to get on, and God gave me the song and spoke to me through the song, and I'm like, Daryl, I'm becoming like you more. I'm using rock songs now.
Oh, I absolutely love it. We relate big time. That kind of stuff pops in my head. Adina and I will be doing several things around the house, and we'll just hear a line from something and go right into it. It's part of our lives. It's what our lives were, and it's still in here. What was it? I heard the other day. Somebody that's getting up a little bit in age says, why is it that I can't remember what I was going into this room to do, but I can repeat the lyrics of old classic rock songs word for word without missing one line? Why is it that I can remember that, but I can't remember what I was doing when I came into this room? So, hey, wait till you're 66 like me, it works. It's all right. Hey, you stand there for a minute, you'll remember. You guys are young, you guys are both in your 20s, you got a long way to go before you get to
going backwards.
How was work today, Rabbi Weinberg?
That was good. We're building a shower.
Building a shower.
Showers are important.
And I'm headed to it right after the show.
No, because Daryl and I personally receive a lot of revelation there. When the water comes down, I'm telling you, it is actually a spiritual place for me. So don't showers are important.
Yeah, they are. They're very important. Yeah, and
This is how I got the Aerosmith song to start my keeping focused.
That's right. One thing leads to another. That's kind of the story of my life. We just kind of progress into different things.
That's a fixed song. So
yeah, you got it. You got it.
there
All
you go.
right. Well, I'm glad both of you have decided to come in, and I'm hoping that you can join me here as often as you can. I was telling Milena earlier that I've invited several different people, and as the shows progress, because it's an evening show instead of our morning show, a lot of people, like Daryl, can't make it in the mornings for different shows, but they can in the evenings after they get off work or whatever they're doing. And so I think this show will progress quite nicely once we get a few more people joining us. But once again, I also told Milena, I think that they're holding off their judgment of whether or not they're going to join to see if this show crashes or not. If we crash tonight and get canceled, then they can say, "Hey, I wasn't on that show." So
Any responsibility.
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. That's right.
I'll be like a Democrat.
Oh, hey, wait, no, okay, that. Oh, yeah. All right, get me started. Get me started. No, that's not the way it works. Okay. All right. Well, we have 3 subjects tonight. And I love just getting into them. I love bantering, but I also want to get into our different subjects, and also want to let everybody know that if you haven't been to the website lately or not at all, MessianicLambNetwork.com, MessianicLambRadio.com. It's the same website. Whenever we do shows like this and discussions and we have different topics, I take them the next day and segment them out and put them up. So you can watch them based on the title of the show. So you don't have to watch a whole hour and a half show. You can watch just the segments and watch them in your spare time whenever you want to. And that seems to work real well for a lot of our discussion shows. So tonight we do have 3 topics. As I was saying earlier, I'm trying to do a CV, China virus topic each week, because that is the news of the world. And hopefully we can keep it positive when we do, trying to stay away from the real negative topics as much as possible. But we're going to talk about this California pastor that is denying or laying down his I don't want to say lay down his arms, but he is picking up his arms against everything that is against what he believes. And, I really got from the article that it wasn't necessarily that he was, against the government at all. It's just that, he needs to stand up for what he believes as far as congregating with his church and making sure everybody is comfortable. I like the fact that he even said at the end that they set up, let me read this here. He says, it says about 1,000 extra seats will be kept outside the church building for those who may want to sit in the open. The church will also provide sanitizers and masks for those who want them. Not necessarily that they require them to do that, but this article is real similar to a situation that I was in this last year, and with the quarantine this year. I started going to a church that seats 650 people. Normally, I wouldn't do that, but it's about an hour each way to go to a congregation or even to meet with a group of Messianic believers. I had to go an hour any direction to meet with anybody, and I don't get to meet with people on Sabbath. Matter of fact, I listened to Rabbi Weinberg's message every Sabbath at noon here on the network, and that's our message that we get for Sabbath, because we just don't have people to meet with. But middle of the year last year, I found out about this church and went, and my daughter and I attended one service, and we loved the praise and worship, and I enjoyed what the pastor had to say. In the next few months, the pastor and I became good friends. We went out to lunch with each other. We talked over doctrine and all kinds of stuff. The guy was very congenial, very open to a lot of things. But when the quarantine happened and they had to shut down the church, when they opened it back up, out of 650 seats, they were only opening 250 seats. So I got a hold of him and said, look, you know, I'm not going to be one of those 250 people and know that the 251st person that shows up at the door doesn't get in because I'm taking one of those 250 seats. I'm not going to do that. And he understood, but, you know, this is what he's going to do because he's conforming to everything that the local authorities have set up. So when this article came out about Pastor John MacArthur and what he was doing with his church, it's like, oh my gosh, man, I just wish everybody would look at this and, learn from it and test their own integrity with this article. It's at christianpost.com, and it's Pastor John MacArthur may face fine, arrest for holding indoor services. We will obey God rather than men, and that's the name of the article. I'm going to put the post up in here, and this is where you can go and check it out if you'd like. Yeah, that came up. A lot of times the big long URLs won't come up in the text, but anyway, you can go check that out if you'd like. Now, Daryl has mentioned this a couple of times in different things, different shows that he's done, and on the War Room Prayers. Matter of fact, you prayed for this brother. I thought that was just over the top. I really appreciate that. And then during service last Sabbath, you had mentioned it again, and I'm real interested in your take on this. Kind of given my take on it. I think it's very interesting. The guy's integrity is over the top. I'd like to see more of us have integrity that way. So Daryl, it's your spot, brother. What do you got to say about this? Bring it to us.
Well, John MacArthur he was foundational in, after I came to faith, of understanding what it meant to be a believer. And now obviously we differ on the position of the Torah, because he is of the belief that we're not obligated to it anymore. But I still enjoy listening to most of MacArthur's stuff because he's a man of very high integrity, and he takes his relationship with God very seriously. And, to be honest, there are often times if I'm in a situation where I have a choice to make, I try to think of what other people I respect would do in that position. And MacArthur is one of the people that I would go to and say, well, what would he do in this situation?
Interesting.
MacArthur leads what we would call a mega church. He has been the pastor of Grace Community Church. I'm not sure where exactly in California it is. I think it's north of LA, for over 50 years. And I think it was his father who was the pastor beforehand. And the man is absolutely immovable when it comes to issues of faith. And so when he basically thumbed his nose at Gavin Newsom and said, "We're not bowing down to this," I thought, well, finally, here's someone who's taking a stand, because this is what I've been saying all along. When we started meeting here in my house for services on Saturday afternoon, I told a couple of people, I said, let someone come in and try to tell me that I can't sing to the Lord. I know the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, which is a Christian legal organization led by Jay Sekulow, who happens to be a Messianic Jew. Well, a Jewish Christian. I don't think.
Yeah. Right.
But they're fighting this mandate in California. And when I contrast what MacArthur did and bully on him with a pastor's meeting that I had a couple of weeks ago on Zoom for here in the Niagara area, and a bunch of pastors got on the Zoom call and they were talking about how they're trying to do what, the pastor of the church that you were talking about said, and that they're trying to figure out how to make sure that there's no singing and everybody's got to wear masks. And I thought, actually, this morning on the way to work, I heard from someone at a church that we have visited a few times. They've opened up, and only one member of the family can come. There's no children allowed. There's no singing, and they have to have social distancing and wearing masks. And I thought, well, what's the point of going to church then?
Yeah, it's a family business going to church. You got to do it with the family. Otherwise, what are you doing to the family if you separate them?
What that tells me is the
Right.
only reason why they're opening is so that they can take the tithes.
Yeah, sure.
And I think this was the very reason that God allowed the coronavirus to spread, because it's judgment on the Laodicean church. And
I just, before this whole thing started, I have been praying to God about, because Daryl and I have this knack of uncovering things that are hidden, and God is saying a time is coming where I will bring things to the surface and reveal them, and nothing will be hidden anymore. And I believe at this time, what's happening, whatever's been hidden under the surface is coming to the surface, and the fearfulness and when I know for myself, an issue I have is worry, and I know that's lack of faith. I know that's, for me, that's lack of faith. And when we start being fearful of the government rather than God, then that is starting to show lack of faith, and we need to strengthen that.
mm-hmm.
A couple of days ago, this weekend, actually, I saw a friend of mine shared a video of a church in Pennsylvania. I forget what the city in Pennsylvania was, but
It was New Versailles.
New Versailles, or anyway, what's happening in Pennsylvania is that now they're starting to open, and people are allowed to go to churches, but there are restrictions. And what the article I read about that was that the pastors are the ones who are choosing to remain closed because of trying to be more careful. And so that one church, the people went to Walmart. They all went.
Oh, that's right. I heard about
Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I heard about it.
And like a 15-minute video was shared on the internet of the choir just singing, and the shoppers actually started stopping and singing along, and beautiful worship. And what the article concluded is the church is not a building, it's the people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, for me, MacArthur said that if you've got mega church pastors who are saying that we're not even opening up shop until next year, he says they've forgotten the whole meaning of being a church. And although he references Peter in that he says that, it's up to you to determine whether we should worship, we should listen to God or man. But for us, we're going to listen to God. but also it's a reminder of Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Right.
And these are young guys. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we forget that. They might not have been any older than teenagers. And they stood before the most powerful man in the world and got hauled before him. And he was known to have a bit of a temper, that guy. And they said, we're not going to bow down to your idol. Our God can deliver us. But here's the verse that just, I think, puts most of us to shame. Even if he doesn't, we're still not going to worship your stupid God.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I was just on the way home. I was talking to a pastor who we're starting to partner up with, and he's got a big, beautiful building in the Niagara Falls area. And he's looking to get tenants and things like that because he sold his house to move into the church. I mean, this guy, he's all in. And I really respect him for that. But at the same time, he's saying that, we've got to maintain these rules and stuff like that. So I've been talking to him about maybe doing combined services, especially for the high holy days. He's very favorable to that. Doing a Rosh Hashanah. He used to be a Sabbath keeper when he lived in Jamaica, actually.
Awesome.
And but couldn't find a Sabbath church, so he just went to Sunday services. So he's open to doing the feast days and everything else. And I told him, I said, well, if we're going to do a service, I said, I don't think we need to be concerned about these social distancing rules and everything else. And I mentioned MacArthur, and his response to me was, well, it's not the mark of the beast yet. And in other words, and MacArthur actually referenced this. He's done some video, like he's getting a lot of airplay now. A lot of people are interviewing him. He's got videos up on YouTube and whatnot. But he says that, people are saying, well, you shouldn't die on this hill. Why? And so my question, though, then is, why are we going to wait until it's like the ultimate before we take a stand? The point is we take a stand when they start. And I told him, I said, well, if we don't fight back on this one, they're going to keep pushing until we stop them. And when we say no more, they're going to have to they're going to have to stand down. They're going to find out that they've got a fight on their hands. I mean, the whole problem with BLM and Antifa and everything else, and the reason why they're able to run amok is that people aren't defending themselves yet. But that's coming soon, and you're going to start to see a lot of bloodshed soon when these, raving lunatics are running around, and they're going to find out. Like there was that one guy that got killed in Austin, Texas. He pointed a rifle. Apparently, he fired a rifle. Guy was in the army. He fired 5 times and missed. The guy in the car fired back and didn't, and he died.
Wow.
How are you?
That's not funny, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Must have been an Obama recruiter or something like that.
But this is where God gets involved in things. This is where we forget that we're fighting with God. And you were giving examples. I mean, Daniel also, or Mordecai, and all these people never.
And this is what I told the pastor. I said to him, Daniel was told in Babylon, you can't pray. And he says, come get me.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, if we're not going to take a stand now when they're trying to tell us how to worship, I mean, in the United States, it's the First Amendment. You have the right to free speech and freedom of worship and religion.
Right.
We don't have Bill of Rights here in Canada, but it's the same thing. And if we're going to allow some lackey in the government office to come after us and tell us how we're going to worship, then you know what? We deserve everything. And the reason why the church is in the position that it's in today is because this is exactly the attitude that pastors have had. They won't take a stand on the hard topics because they're afraid of what people are going to think.
And I have something to add. We happen to live in a neighborhood where it's a very culturally and like even faith-wise, it's very diverse. It's very diverse neighborhood. So our son Yossi has befriended several kids, and there's 2 kids whose house he's allowed to go into. And he says once in a while, this boy disappears, and he would ask the sister, where's he going? And she says, he's going to pray. Now, this is, we believe it's a Muslim family.
Really? Okay.
And you know, now we too teach our son to pray on a daily basis and do that. But that really took me back, because I thought, look at that child and the discipline he has to go and pray. Even when his buddy is over, he excuses himself and he goes and prays. Are we teaching our children that type of discipline, that type of, and what are the Christian children are going to be up against if we don't discipline them and we don't have them to stand, you know, teach them to stand up for what they believe?
Yeah, but the difference is that the Muslims fear their God and we don't fear ours.
I agree. I really do agree with that. I know that. It's too bad, being a false god that they serve.
Well, there's a reason why they fear him.
Well, a little different than that. And we'll get into that in a minute, by the way, in our next topic. But I agree with you. And you look at their commitment to their lifestyle in general, and it baffles me sometimes on us. We've taken so much for granted in our walk with God that we just believe that it's all just going to be taken care of, because especially as Americans, everything around us is just taken care of. I mean, we live our normal everyday life. And then, of course, when you disrupt it, like the CV did earlier this year, everything goes chaos, because we always take things for granted. And in our walk with God, I think it's a simple fact that we don't fear God, because we just believe things are going to be taken care of. All we have to do is pray, and it'll happen. It may not happen like we think it will, but it'll happen. And then when everything gets thrown into chaos, we're not stable. It's like planting the seeds. We're really not. So many are not planted in good, fertile soil. And they're such surface people that they have all their different reasons for serving God or going to a specific church. I've discussed this before. Is a lot of people pick a church because it's got a good youth program, or they like the praise and worship, or
don't get me started on that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. See, that's surface faith.
I've had that conversation a few times.
we just take things for granted. Then when everything gets thrown into chaos, those things that we take for granted go into chaos. And so I don't know, people's faith in the Lord and what they're doing. I mean, I've got respect for the pastor of the church that I've been going to, but I sure would like to see him just stand up and not do it. I do a show with Sandy Craig on Monday mornings, and we were talking just this morning about her congregation, which has, even since the middle of the quarantine, been meeting together. And so I was asking her, so, do you guys meet several times a week? Do you wear masks? And says, no, nobody wears a mask. I says, well, do you hug? Says, yeah, you bet we hug. We actually all get together in a circle and put arms around each other, and we pray and we worship God, and we stand right next to each other and the whole thing. And they've been doing this for a long time. As a matter of fact, they don't even think about what's going outside them doors, because it has nothing to do with what's going on inside the doors.
And then they go hut hut, and then
that's right. So I said, so you do all these things. How many people from your congregation has come down with the CV? And she goes, none. We've been doing this for a long time. Nobody has even nobody in their family and nobody else has the CV. So it's like, really? But that's against all odds. That's against all the odds and everything we hear outside the doors. Why don't we take what we know inside the doors outside the doors?
Yes.
But, that's my take on it. It's amazing. We are the group that we meet with an hour and 10 minutes away in Myrtle Beach. We were meeting as a group, 20 some people. Sometimes we get together at least 2-3 times a month, and they won't get together now. They do their services over the telephone. It's a conference call. And I did it, 3 different times. And then I'm going, I do this every day. I don't need to get together with you on a conference call. I love you people, but I want to get together physically with somebody, I can't handle this. I love Daryl and Melena, and I love Sandy and John and all the other people we meet with here online, but I need that physical contact, man. I really do. So, and I love hugging my wife, but I need, I need that interaction. But anyway, you guys just got a new one started, and
Yep.
so same thing. Do you guys wear masks? By the way, I brought my mask just in no, it's more
Yeah, exactly. I second that.
Yeah. We understood everything you said.
I'll bring the mask that I use for sanding drywall and, get my
exactly.
act going here.
No, we don't wear masks. Yes, we hug. Yes, we even share food together.
Yeah, it's and it's like Chance was saying here that if we're not, and MacArthur says the same thing.
This is the way you're supposed to wear your mask right here.
Yeah.
I saw that, so you can eat through that, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Yeah, MacArthur says, people are telling him, well, you shouldn't die on this hill. He says, we're going to die on this hill because you got to pick a hill to die on. It's not a matter of which is this isn't one of those situations where it's, sometimes it's better to come back and fight another day. That's not what this is. This is an encroachment upon our freedom to worship our God.
Sure.
And my attitude is I want to make it as hard for these people as possible to stop me. And if I end up having to suffer for that, then so be it, because the disciples said, it was said of them in Acts chapter 5 verse 42 is that they rejoiced and they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name's sake.
Amen.
MacArthur's taken the same approach. Amen. That if I got to go to jail for the Lord, for worshiping the one true God in a pagan satanic society, okay, then and someone asked me, so what happens if he goes to jail? I said, I guess he'll get a prison ministry.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I remember MacArthur saying years ago that if the Antichrist comes, and he's still here, I think he's a pre-tribber, but if he happens to be wrong there, and the Antichrist comes, he's going to be preaching on the doorstep of his palace, and he's going out with skid marks.
Oh, so what happens if he goes to jail? Well, he'll have a prison ministry, or they won't be able to lock his door. Every time they put him in his cell, the door won't lock, and he'll just have I'm
going to bust him out in the middle of the night.
An angel or something.
Yeah. There's stories about that somewhere.
Then Peter gets the elbow.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
it's to me, it's very distressing to see some of the attitudes of the pastors that I deal with, and I'm seriously considering not fellowshipping with them anymore because we have nothing in common. I sent the Christian Post article to the coordinator of the ministerial, and I said, "Can you pass this on to the brethren? This goes back to what I was saying in our last meeting," and I don't think it was very well received, and I haven't seen the email go out yet, so I'm anticipating that's not going to happen. And I can't spend very much time in the presence of the Evangelifish for too long, so we'll have to see where this goes.
We are to do what is right, not what is popular, and what is right is God's standard, not our standard. I'm just a little upset though, because sometimes shaming within the Christian circles. Oh, well, and the New Testament does say that you are to obey your government, but not above God.
No, that's true. I don't know if you've heard John and Sandy's teaching on that verse, and they have a different take on it that's really good. Here in the next couple of weeks, I'm talking to John and Sandy to come on and give us a brief little understanding that they had. It's really, really good. So we'll talk about that. But I mean, it's not wrong. It's just it's a little bit different. So I want to post up Chance. Thank you for posting this. Matthew 10:28 says, "And fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." And we will fear God above all. So I appreciate it. All right. Very good. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate your input. This is fun. We can stay real positive about a world of negativity, and bring what's right into the right things. So we're there.
We have an opportunity, I think, right now to prove God, because the exact situations where he vindicates those who stand in faith. I mean, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, they had no guarantee. I mean, they even said, "We're not even sure whether God's going to do it or not."
Yeah.
Nonetheless, we're going to take a stand.
Yeah.
Daniel had no assurance that he was not going to get killed by the lions, and he knew where he was going to go.
Very true.
So, unless you are given a direct, now we don't go testing God, so we don't pull an Elijah and go challenge the prophets of Baal unless he is actually instructed him to do so.
Sure.
So, we have to be able to hear it. And actually, what the Lord really impressed upon my heart even last night was Isaiah 50 and verse 4, and it's one of my go-to verses. That the Lord God has given me the tongue of a disciple, that I may lift up the weary in a time of need. But it says that he awakens me morning by morning, and he gives me an ear of a disciple. So first of all, he has the tongue of a disciple, but before he can speak words of comfort to those who are needing, he's got to hear the voice of God.
Amen.
And so in these times where persecution is coming, and I've heard stories in China where pastors are saying, "Don't take away the persecution."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because MacArthur says that the church in China is growing by leaps and bounds, and he says in Japan, you can't get any kind of gathering together. The gospel has utterly failed in Japan because of the fact that there's no persecution.
Wow.
In China, it's going crazy because they don't have any choice. It's either God or nothing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Once again, take for granted. We take so much for granted what's right in front of us, and some things it's okay, but not with God. You don't take anything for granted when it comes to the kingdom of God. I just, it's so in my face all the time to keep that ever before me, that I just don't take anything for granted. Things change too quickly, but they're always the same with the kingdom of God. So there you go. All right, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit. I thought what we would do is go into the Christian portion of the show. So if you guys would grab your crosses, we're gonna bounce around with our crosses, and if you think that's a little bit too big, then I brought my little one here. I was actually gonna make a necklace out of this one, but it got a little heavy on my neck. But anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah, our cross, yeah.
It's okay, brother. Leave it there. Anyway,
Shofar.
That's right. We'll go with that. All right. I have a topic that I have brought up in other shows, not a lot. I love the salvational issue topics when it comes to theology within the Bible and that type of thing. And I've told different stories of people that I've talked to, even Jewish people that are interested in what we believe and find it hard to conceive of certain things that we take maybe a little bit too far. And so my question this week was, what if the Bible didn't say anything at all from Genesis to Revelation? I almost have to leave out Revelation, but didn't say anything at all about what happens to us after we die. Now, the big push on evangelism, and I've been a part of several different evangelism organizations back in the day, back in the Christian walk day, Christian lifestyle day, of where we used to say, like, I used to do hellfire and damnation preaching, and that's where a lot of my questions come from. Is that we would go to the book of, I think it's Jude, that says save some by fear. Our Bible said save everybody by fear. If you don't repent today, you're going to hell tomorrow. And it's always been the most prevalent thing in evangelizing, and especially in talking to just people in general. I mean, now we don't do a whole lot of street evangelism. Paul Neeson is one of the very few messianics that literally goes and stands out on the corner of big cities with a microphone and an amplifier and preaches the gospel. He preaches the Torah gospel a lot, has for years now. But we have very few messianics that do. But once again, if we didn't have that part to enter into our talk with people, and bringing it around to the subject of salvation, and why a person should spend their time with God or make a commitment to God, if we don't use that part of you need to repent today because you might be going to hell tomorrow, part of it, then what is it that actually we should be doing for people, or saying to people, if we didn't have that to use in our evangelistic spiel? Let's put it that way. And I know, Daryl, you're very opinionated about this. I've heard your take on this without even asking that question before. Very interested in it. So anyway, my take on it, and I want to give mine here so we can kind of take it from that point of view also, is that I had a Jewish lady tell me that, God made the heavens and God made the earth. God put the life that's in me, And because of that alone, we serve God. And literally, when she told me this has been 20 some years ago that I heard her tell me this. It literally changed my perspective on that. It literally is that other side of the coin rather than to make the hell and the heaven an issue at all. So, and I agree with that to a certain point is that I serve God because he's God. I serve God because he put the life that's in me. And that's how I serve my Lord. And then of course, when I die, I don't worry about what's going to happen to me when I die. I just know I'm taken care of. So I'd like to get your point of view on this. Melanie, do you mind going first?
Not at all. Not at all. As you were speaking, I was just remembering when we were in Peterborough, I joined this homeschool group, and it was a mixed group. It's people with different beliefs and convictions, and we're in there. And
not legal convictions.
Yeah, not that. Anyway.
I get what you're saying.
Spiritual conviction. And I was witnessing to a dad because he overheard me witnessing to another lady about God. And he says, why do you people always have to bring God in this? Whenever you don't have an answer to something, you say God did it. And I said to him, well, but because God exists and God did do everything. He said, well, how could you prove God exists? I said, look around you. All this exists. And I recently we were listening to Michael Lake, who said that mathematicians have been calculating, and the probability of this, everything being a chance or random is mathematically a lot smaller than this being actually a designed world, like everything being designed. So either way you put it, scientifically, mathematically, there's no coincidence. It's all designed. The world, we are designed, everything, life, everything's designed. And this is how God revealed himself to me. And I have science background, so God showed me that he is the one who, makes everything continue working. And I was actually just finished my devotions in Job. And when God was talking about, to Job about, well, I'm the one who created everything. Where were you when I did this, and, God makes the water, cycle and just life to be sustained. And I thought, wow, what God said to Job is what God said to me to convince me that he exists and get me out of having my faith in science and having my faith in him. And so, yes, the proof is that the world does exist. The proof is that somebody did design it. And how sad it is for people to think that they're just a coincidence. How do you feel like you're a coincidence? Do you think that you don't matter? Like, we all have a sense that we have a purpose. We have value, absolutely. And for us to embrace beliefs that it's all coincidence and there's no God who created us, it contradicts. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I often use, look around you, all this is functioning. Yes, I mean, the people have messed up the world, but it was supposed to be functioning in harmony all together. So, even if we don't know what happens, we know that there's all these theories out there. The aliens brought us all the knowledge from distant planets, and why? I mean, it takes so much more faith to believe all these other theories than just embrace the fact that there is a God.
Good point.
God who created everything, the God. And so our purpose in life is to really get to know who that God is, how he designed us. Lately, I've been having some ladies' meetings where the ladies consult crystals to bring whatever energy their way, or they call themselves goddesses, and it's all this stuff. Yeah. And I'm thinking, and And you know what I'm finding? That there's a lot of people are getting into depression. That people are, depression is quite prevalent nowadays in our society because people don't have God to believe in. They don't have God to guide them. And so they have to think of these philosophies to get themselves out of it. In the meantime, God can cure all these things, all these, us falling into these kind of states, only if we embrace that. So no, you don't have to look at Revelation to realize that you're a child of God, that is important, that God created you. And all you have to do is have a relationship with your Father who created you. So that's how I approach it.
Very
Really.
good. Very good. I like it. I like it a lot. Very good. Well, Mr. Weinberg.
I've heard the argument from Orthodox Jewish people about, yes, we serve God because he's God and everything else. I don't buy it. Because Paul says that if Messiah didn't rise from the dead, then we above all are to be pitied. The whole death question is integral to our faith, because why else would we give up everything in this world and become a point of mockery if we weren't going to be? This life is, David says it's a vapor. Here today, gone tomorrow.
It is.
Eternity is a lot longer time. And it was my fear of the lake of fire of hell that led me to faith. So I don't think you can give an honest depiction of the gospel if you're not talking about what's to come. Because, especially for either Jews or Muslims, where you're asking them to give up a lot, if there's no eternal reward, then what really is the point? If soul annihilation is the end of it all, then you know what? We might as well party like it's 1999. It's, why bother going through all the misery if there isn't the promise of an eternal reward? And why go through all the misery if not turning away from that doesn't lead me to a horrendous... I'll tell you something. It's my visions of hell, and I'm not talking about that I get visions, but what I picture in my mind, the description of hell and what it's going to be like, it's what drives me to do what I do. It's what drives me to go and share the gospel with people who I know aren't. I did street evangelism in New York City 3 months before 9/11. I stood on the corner of some Orthodox neighborhoods in Brooklyn and didn't get some very positive responses from some people.
I'm sure.
You want to stretch your boundaries, then do street evangelism to Jews in New York, and you'll find out what persecution really is.
I'm sure.
So for me, the whole question about what happens after we die, because that's everybody's deep down, that's what everybody fears the most.
I was 5 years old when I first asked that question.
Yeah.
Growing up in a communist country where nobody talked about God, and somehow I knew there was death around me. And as a child, I was just thinking, well, what happens when all these people die? Where do they go? Like, you can't help but ask that question. And when I asked that question, I remember that's when I had my first dreams from God, who was answering, because there was no human being there to answer those. And he was showing me the separation of body and soul and all. I think everyone, because God created us all, he communicates with us. And that was before I even really believed. I know God has spoken to me before I even believed. So when you face people with the truth of the Bible, the truth of who God is, I know it resonates in there. They could try to deny it. I mean, that's their option and choice. But even if it's like hell, like even if it's something that is offensive, because we've been told by a Jewish man before, well, it's offensive to me for you to say that if I don't believe in your God, I'm going to hell. sorry, I'd rather, Daryl and I both believe we'd rather offend you now than warn you of what is waiting for you.
Whether you find it offensive or not does not make it not true.
Of course, sure.
I'm always mystified where people think that they get to determine what's truth and what's not just because of what they do.
But we are to balance God's love and goodness with what happened, and it's all a choice. And it's like Naaman. I'm just thinking of Naaman, who was asked to bathe in the river to be healed from, and he wouldn't do it. And even his servant said, "Well, what a big deal it is! Like, why wouldn't you do something so simple?" And it's all pride. Like this is all that stands in the way. Like it's really pride for the cure.
Yeah, and to say that there isn't talk of the afterlife in the Old Covenant. What about all the Psalms? I mean, how many times does David reference Sheol? And
I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying. I mean,
Jews will tell you that.
He's talking about Jews.
There's no mention.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I get it.
I mean, the only, I think, direct reference to we have of heaven and hell would be in Daniel 12:2, which says that in those days, those who lie asleep in the grave shall be raised, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting shame and contempt. So that's the only, I think, direct reference to what happens to people in the Old Covenant. Now, we do have talk about God being a consuming fire. We do talk about eternal burning, Isaiah 34:13, I believe it is. But the whole idea of, see, death isn't natural, and that's why we fear it. Yeah. We were never meant to die.
I get what you're saying. Sure.
And so this is why people they either ignore it. It
will never happen to me.
Yeah, they do what ostriches don't even do, which is jam their heads in the sand. Sure. And I think back to when my mother was dying of cancer. She absolutely refused to deal with her impending death. Even a week before she died, she couldn't even walk anymore. And I remember holding on to her as I was kind of hugging her, and I was trying to talk to her about the after. Nope, she wasn't going to deal with it.
Uh-huh.
So, Mark, are you trying to ask how do we witness to people without that peace?
No, I'm not asking. Well, I mean that can be part of it. I'm just what you guys have said really fit exactly what I'm looking for here. My take on this is that I don't fear death. I don't have a problem with it. I know who I am with God. I know who I am in this world with my wife, with my family, with my ministry, with God. I know who I am. I have no problem with it at all. I don't question it. I don't question any of these things. My mortality is, in front of my face anymore since I'm turning 66 next month. I know that my dad lived to be 90, and I would like to live longer than that. I think a lot of it is that I love my life. I love living. Even when the world is in chaos, I still love my life. I still love being here. I still love experiencing all the things that are happening. Some things it makes me cringe, and I get overwhelmed with all the crap that's happening in the world. I do. I get overwhelmed with it. I've been saying since last year, I just turned 65. I don't want any more problems. I just want to kick back and enjoy life now for the rest of my time here on earth. I'm good. But I think that's it, is that I love it so much. I don't even think about what happens to me after I die anymore. It's just not an issue. And I think a lot of times I have talked to people that do have an issue with that, and they have their questions they can't seem to get solved in that they don't have trust in anybody anymore, especially the church, especially the organized church. There is a lot of non-trust in what's gone before because they've seen so many negative things happen with the church in the history of the church in the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years that they don't have trust anymore. So why should we trust what you say about what happens to us when we die? And so with me having such a love for life, and my love for life is totally based on the fact that the Lord is my commander. The Lord is my God, and I don't know anything else anymore. And because of that, it's really when I talk to somebody, for instance, the lady that lives across the street from us, I mean, not more than a month and a half ago, stood on her porch when I was talking to her about something, and she says, you know, we have already talked about the difference between our lifestyle and their lifestyle. She says, you know, I really want to sit down one-on-one and really talk about this, you know, the difference between what you guys believe and what we believe. And my thought is that, man, if you could just realize who God is, if you could just get a concept of God and get that peace in your life that I have, because I think that's what it is. I have such a peace in my life. If people could just get that, why even be concerned about what happens to you after you die? I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know the process. Do I go to Abraham's bosom? Do I go to heaven? Do I instantly get wings? Do I stand on a cloud with Gabriel? I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't care. I really don't care. I have such a peace. If I find out tomorrow that I've got 2 weeks to live, it's almost like I have goosebumps. As a matter of fact, just saying it, I'm getting goosebumps. Just saying it. I don't want to die because I want to be here. I want to be around people. I want to talk to people about God, the whole thing. But see, that's my concept. That's where I come from. And I know not everybody feels that way. But I think what it comes down to is that I just want everybody to have the peace that passes all understanding, like I feel within me. And I think that to me, it has nothing to do with what happens to me when I die. So I'm interested. I don't disagree with what either one of you said at all. I think it is a very personal understanding. I think it's a personal decision that each one of us makes about that. But I would also like the fact that people should have the option of not having to be concerned about what happens to them after they die, and know God for who God is, what he has done, and what he is going to do in our lives, and let that be it. When I witness to somebody, I will witness that way first. And also, make it a part that, you also get to go spend an eternity with God, after you pass. I don't know. See, that's my deal. I don't know. So, and if somebody can lay it out to me and tell me, okay, when you die, the next minute you're going to be floating up, and then the next minute you're going to be standing on this cloud with Gabriel, and this is going to happen. If somebody can line that out to me, I'd say, yeah, sure, yeah, whatever. But that's the point. That's who I am. So Daryl's going like,
listen, if that's your focus, I think it's wonderful.
Peace.
And and if that's what works for you, and that's everybody has to be faithful to the message that God has given them. I
agree.
Whether it be for evangelism, whether it be for ministry, whether it be for the business that they start. I was listening at work today with the contractor I work with, and I was listening to one of Mike Lake's messages from about 12 years ago, and he did a series on next level living, and he talks about the core gifts that God gives everybody, skill sets, and he explains the scientific means behind that, and how children learn at a phenomenal rate up until they hit teenagers, and then all of a sudden something happens where
they know everything all of a sudden.
Yeah,
you're right.
And he says there's a scientific reason for that, and he says, aren't you glad? Because they wake up half a foot taller and they grunt, and everybody's got these core areas of specialty. And so whether it be a gifting in business or preaching or music or whatever it might be, we got to be faithful to that. And whatever ministry God has given us, you've been given a ministry to promote other ministries, and you got to be faithful to that. And you've got to do whatever it takes to build this. So if the message that God has given you is live your best life now in God, and if that works, God's going to send you people who that resonates with.
He has, and he is. I agree.
And that's wonderful. And it's not, Paul, even when Paul says in Philippians, where, some men are preaching the gospel out of envy and for gain, he says, well, what's my reaction? I rejoice in that the gospel is being preached. People are still going to get saved regardless of what people's motivation is.
That's right.
God's going to use the televangelists to save people. They may not get to heaven, and if they do, they're certainly not going to get any rewards for what they're doing. But you know what? God is still going to use them.
Yeah.
So we just have to be faithful to whatever God lays upon our hearts and walk in that.
Yep. I agree, brother. I agree. And not take everything for granted and let it go by the wayside. You bet. Wow. Thanks a million for your input. Very good. I had not thought of the design aspect that you came from, Melina. That was really good. I like that. And that actually works for me real well. But very good. I like it. All right. So good. I love your input, everybody. Just what I was looking for. So we're going to go on to the last subject here. And this was something that it's funny because I've heard this about 4 times, this subject about 4 times in the past 2 weeks. As a matter of fact, we've talked about it on a couple of different shows, the news segments, just briefly brought it up. And then I heard Daryl bring it up again on Sabbath, of the issue of abortion clinics being open during the quarantine, and when they were picking and choose, the government was picking and choosing which businesses they thought were essential businesses. And it's just it's still amazing to me how many restaurants, most of the restaurants in our area are open. Of course, once again, we live in a tourist area, We're only 3 miles from the coastline, the beach, and the ocean, and all up and down in any direction from our house is major tourist and vacation spots, things like that, and so like restaurants, different restaurants are open. Some restaurants you have to go up and you can't even go inside. You have to order, or you go to their drive-through or something like that. And then another restaurant, you go right inside. Everything's as normal as it was. I don't get it. Well, how did you decide which one you were going to do when everybody else is? If everybody else is open, why are you only doing? And so anyway, all of that is still chaos to me. And the most amazing thing to me is the fact that they would choose to make abortion clinics an essential business when clothing stores are not essential business. I guess you're just supposed to wear old clothes until they do open. They decide to open whatever they are. It's amazing. So I don't have much on it, except that I think all of us have the same look at what abortion clinics are. They should not be open, period, to start with. And so who makes these stinking decisions? And I think that's more my point is who's making these stinking decisions of what's what? And should we be making a stand against that? I mean, what do we do? How do we do it? And, so that's kind of my point. It's not it's a huge topic, but I know there's not a lot of discussion on it. I would like to bring it up as an end topic here. So I'll give you either one of you to start here and make your point. There you go. You want to let's do rock, paper, scissors. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll do it. Somebody said flip a coin. If we have a dispute as a couple, we need to flip a coin so we don't fight.
We'll flip the cat.
Yeah, I will start with that because
I want to watch.
Yeah. Well, who makes the decisions? Obviously, these are political decisions with influences, and Daryl's looked into that and all that, and well, ultimately, money is a big determinant, financial gain and so forth is a big determination. And, but the Lord just recently spoke to me. And I think I mentioned that during our war room prayers, that it's no longer ungodly society we live in. It's anti-God society. Like it's just moved to that next stage.
Good point. Good point.
So it's no longer people don't pay attention to what God's ways are. People are actually choosing ways that are purposefully opposed to God's ways. And that's kind of the decision that was for abortion clinics being. I have always been a proponent of women need to have counseling when they're making such a decision of literally life and death. I know there are many circumstances. I know there are very compelling reasons for, women believe that they need to have abortions, but they're not hearing the God side anymore because it's not becoming available to them. And so also in society, abortion is really a solution to a problem we feel like we're having. Oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, and it's inconveniencing my life. I think women need to be made aware of what an important decision that is. I know there has been abortion in my family, and and what that is that a woman makes that decision quickly, but then it stays with her for a lifetime.
Right.
And when we say abortion is an essential service, it's something that woman has the right to have, and it's perfectly fine to walk in there and do it. It's just a procedure. It's nothing else. There's so much more to it. And I think that what's an essential service is counseling service. How many people have been suffering mental distress during this time? You know, the society takes care of giving painkillers or putting band-aids on things, but we're not dealing with the core issues. Like, what is driving people to go? What's making someone believe that they could just go ahead and have an abortion and it's no big deal and it's essential, and for people to vote for that? It's the anti-God thinking, but it's also people who have not been taught God's ways, who have not been faced with the truth, and they've been bombarded with lies all their lives. So of course those decisions are going to be made the way they are. And like I said, money, financial gain, unfortunately, that has become above the value of life, above the value of anything, really. So
I wonder how much of the decision was an in-your-face decision. You get what I'm saying? In other words, they knew what they were doing when whoever made that decision, they knew what they were doing when, being a part of the whole scam of it all anyway. Was this something that's like, okay, in your face, all you people that are against all this? I just wonder. So many different things could easily be an in your face. We can make the decision, you can't. So we agree with this. So in your face. But anyway, I wonder.
In your face. Well, it's. Why are we choosing? We can raise up so many topics here. Vaccines, all these things that that. There's been proof that it's harmful, and yet that's being given to people. And it's all.
But abortion is the legal right to kill children. That's the ultimate to me. That's one of the reasons I brought this subject up, is because it's like the ultimate sin. It's the ultimate murder. It's the ultimate crime of any century, of any time, of all time, to kill children, and kill them before they even have a chance. To me, that's why I'm almost saying it's like Satan's devices of in your face.
Well, why was God mad at Israel throughout the years? Because they were embracing the ways of the nations, and a lot of their rituals were child sacrifice. It's nothing new under the sun, like Ecclesiastes says. So it's just going back. The Lord also spoke to me. We're going back to the days of Noah. Well, what were the days of Noah? There wasn't anyone on earth that followed God but Noah. And we're moving towards that.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Rabbi,
yeah.
What do you think? Got anything to say at all, or are you pretty neutral?
Oh, he does.
Well, I think Chance really articulates it well. Child sacrifice is essential to a Luciferian-run system. That's my take on it as far as abortion clinics are concerned.
Yeah.
But the question is, why are they necessary? Why are they essential to a Luciferian system? Child sacrifice has always been, I think, and it's like you said, Mark, if we're going to talk about any one sin that one can commit, killing children, unborn children, and pedophilia goes right up there too,
sure,
which is endemic within a Luciferian society as well. I'm just reading a book right now on the whole music industry, not for the faint of heart. Mike Lake, in his book, The Shiriath Imperative, Shiriath meaning remnant, talks about what is it that drives a pagan society. Where is it that people get their power from? Where does Satan get his power from? And he postulates that neither God nor Satan makes a decision or does anything in the earth unless man speaks or does it first.
That's right.
So you've got two spiritual entities, one who chooses to act upon the will of man, and one who is limited to acting on the will of man. So Lake says that when Satan fell, something new came about in the universe, and that's called the iniquity force. That's what he calls it. And so with the piling up of sin, we are in essence the enemy's battery. And the more we sin, the stronger and more powerful he gets. When a society devolves into licentiousness, barbarianism, chaos, murder, whatever it may be, as we've said, when we did the city taking in Peterborough last year, the guy who was a former cop and soldier, who was also a survivor of SRA, satanic ritual abuse, he said that whatever gets the most worship in an area sits on the throne. And so if you've got sinful activities, I mean, you can only imagine what the principality that rules over Las Vegas must be like, and how much power it has. The more we sin, the more powerful Satan gets, and the more influence and authority he has to go do his business, which is ultimately lead men to destruction. Well, what is going to provide him with more power than the sacrifice of children? And like Milena says, that was the thing that got God's ire more than anything else within Israel's history, is when they turned to Baal or Moloch worship and they sacrificed their children.
Right.
The whole purpose in keeping abortion clinics going is that they have to keep the occult power flowing. Right. When God shut down the Sunday churches, and they shut down the Easter sunrise services and stuff like that, there's a lot of occult power that's generated from those pagan holidays. Same thing with Christmas. When those things got shut down over Easter, there was a lot of power that the enemy lost. And so he's scrambling right now in order to try to keep all of his fires going, in order that sin, which is like the coal in the furnace, keeps going. You shut down the abortion clinics, you shut down the sin, all of a sudden you find the bars and the strip clubs and everything else start to close, and people turn to righteousness. And the thing that the devil fears more than anything else is when Christians, especially the men, take their rightful role and take a stand for God.
Right.
And this is what's so grievous about what the churches are doing, and what's so unfortunately radical about what John MacArthur is doing. He's taking a stand for righteousness, and he's refusing to compromise. The fact that abortion was ever allowed in a Christian nation is a shame on the church, because churches should have been rioting in the streets in 1973 in the United States.
Sure.
I heard, now I haven't verified whether this is true, but I heard that the Supreme Court during the Civil War made a ruling against releasing blacks, and Abraham Lincoln went and had them all tossed in jail. He said, I don't care what you say. You don't determine law, you interpret law. And if you're going to interpret it that badly, you're going to spend a little time thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So abortion clinics are necessary for occult power to keep going, so the enemy can get his business done. What were they doing in New York during the pandemic when it was raging over there? They were putting people infected with the coronavirus into nursing homes so they can infect other people and raise their numbers. It's a known fact. They have a doctor who's exposed to this all. So if Christians really start, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago in one of my messages, and I spoke about the fact that if we pray and ask God to forgive sins, it reduces the enemy's power, even if it's only temporary. We break, because what the enemy gets more powerful as you pile sin upon sin. But if God goes in and he forgives all of those things, the enemy starts back at zero again. And it makes it much more difficult for him to get momentum. The enemy gets momentum when sin is unbroken. He does his most effective work when you've got generations of people who are serving him, like in Freemasonry, Illuminati,
Right.
whatever it may be.
Right.
When one of those family members comes to faith, it breaks that cycle and it reduces his influence and power. Satan can do more with the 4th or 5th or 10th generation occultist than he can with someone who's new to the hellfire.
Right.
So that's why I think abortion clinics are considered an essential. It is essential if the devil wants to keep his power base going.
To Satan, it's essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But you'll not get anybody as far as the government concerned to tell me what you just told me. So that's why I go to my rabbi, because I need for him to tell me. No, I agree, brother. I know that in essence, but a lot of this I just not clear on, and that really clears it up. I appreciate it. Very good. All right. I like it, man. I'm going to enjoy it even more when we get more people to come in and add to the discussion. I've had several people that I've invited to come on the show, and as the weeks go by, we'll have 3 or 4 other people come and join. I hope you guys can join on a regular basis as often as you can. We need to get Daryl his supper, I think, before before we started the show. Milena was finishing up hers, and seeing Daryl come in, I'm going, Daryl hadn't had his supper yet. So thank you, brother, for sacrificing your time here. Are you okay? You're not fainting?
He will live. He will live. He will be all right. This is amazing to be able to discuss these topics. So,
all right.
Forgo supper anytime for discussion of God's things.
I think most of us are that way. As long as we keep it within reason, that's all that matters. So before y'all leave, though, and before we shut everything down, I want to remind everybody that we are doing a broadcast on Sunday. It's the Brad Scott Memorial broadcast. And I wanted to share with everybody a quick little promo that I put together to remind everybody, if you haven't seen this, you might want to get a couple of tissues. This is literally Brad Scott talking to the body of Messiah. And so I want to share this with everybody before we go. Here we go.
Tiny seed, we watch it blossom into the light.
I remember spending a few months, and you can testify of this course. Of course, any of you have had something like this, the big C or any of those things in your life, then the spouse sometimes much worse on the spouse. Okay, because they got to go through the same things that you do. But I moped for a while, did I not? Yeah. I did the woe is me thing for a little bit, which didn't help any. And until I came to the realization that what in the world am I doing? Why am I not leaping like a hart? Because not only do I have the most loving, giving, caring wife on this planet, but I have wonderful children who all love me dearly. I have a best friend that's the best friend of all friends. Not many kids grow up having a best friend, and even though we're old now, we are doing our best to still be those old time, Walt and leave it to Wally and Leave It to Beaver, best friends kind of thing. And I've got thousands of people all over this world that are praying for me. Oh my goodness. We didn't even know what to say. You try to express it in the little thing you put for the update on the website. You try to say it in words, but there are no words to express the reception from them. How about a huge restored confidence in the body of Messiah? I was a little disappointed in the body there for a while. But I mean, just stuff coming out of the woodwork, and I'm not just, how to cure your thing, those kind of things, but just people simply sending a card. Anybody in here ever send a card? Sending a card. We just don't do that anymore. And when I got the first card, we kind of went, someone actually sat down with a pen, assuming they knew how to use one, okay? Sat down with a pen and actually took the time to write a card. And I'm just telling you, I'll probably not be able to tell it enough times the rest of my life. I love you all so much. Because, as a whole, there was a few individuals. But you know what I mean. The body. She's not going to stand up here and be in agreement with that. I guess so. But it is so amazing to see that when the body is hurting, it still really has the ability to rise up and go to the rescue of other parts of the body. And we still have some red blood cells, if you will, running around, helping and curing and defending the diseases in our body. And so I just want to say that alone is reason to continue these things, because of the outpouring of the people. And so I'm not going to look in a particular camera, because I know there are people out there watching this, and I will say, thank you first to them, to all of you out there that have cared, and that means so much to us, and I cannot overstate it. Everything kind of pales in comparison from that point forward. And there's so many things to be grateful for right in the midst of this. I don't want to steal my favorite baseball player, Lou Gehrig's reputation, but I am truly the most blessed man on the face of the earth. And I don't know what. I really don't know. I really don't know what to say other than that.
All right. Well, that's obviously this coming Sunday, and Brad was a very close personal friend of mine, and it's hard to see him go. That's exactly 1 month ago today that he died, and Sunday will be the broadcast. There's over 20 people, his close personal friends, including his wife Carol, will be there. So starts at noon Eastern time, and we'll go from there. All right, Daryl, thank you so much, brother. I hope Melena's warming up your supper for you.
We just had guests arrive, so I got to go.
Oh, okay. Well, what timing then? Thank you so much, brother. I love your insight. I really appreciate you so much. And Melena, thank you, Melena, for joining in too. We need to get her on camera more. We'll
do this again next week.
We're working it. All right. Love you, brother. And I need to get everything going here. All right. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks again, Daryl. And we'll have more people joining us next week. So God bless everybody. Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
we are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.